Last evening, I spent a considerable amount of time talking about how it was the Secret Service's responsibility, not local law enforcement with a very small police force, to protect outside the perimeter. And I don't know how that building became outside the perimeter for the killer to climb it, have a ladder, climb it, go to the roof, people yelling at him, and, you know. There's a lot more information, and this is actually quite frightening. And Fox has got this information from a briefing that senators just received. And let me read to you as it's breaking. The gunman who attempted to assassinate former President Trump on Saturday was identified as suspicious by law enforcement more than an hour before he opened fire. Senator John Barrasso, Republican Wyoming, told Fox News after a briefing between Senate lawmakers and the U.S. Secret Service. Barrasso said he was identified as a character of suspicion because he had a rangefinder as well as a backpack. And this was over an hour before the shooting actually occurred, so you would think over the course of that hour, you shouldn't lose sight of the individual. Somebody ought to be following up on those sorts of things. No evidence at all that happened at all. Fox News was told that Secret Service was aware of the threat before Trump walked on the stage and narrowly survived an assassin attempt. So right there, why would they allow that to occur? You know what strikes me, Mr. Producer, and it's not about me, trust me. But it crossed my mind about 10 minutes ago. If I had stayed on the phone with him longer, none of this might have happened. It's a frightening thought. He called me. He's on the tarmac. He's in the plane. We're talking 10 minutes, 15, 12, whatever it was. And he even joked, he said, now look at how much I think of you. There's 50,000 people sitting out waiting for me, and here I am talking with you, Mark. Now, he called me to chat about a number of things. So I sit here, think about that. It's almost chilling, you know? Now, here we go. A Secret Service agent in charge of security for the event was on the phone with local and state police about the threat while the shooting took place. Barrasso said there was no talk of reports that local officers engaged with the shooter before he opened fire. They shut it after just a couple of questions and didn't get to any of the meat of the matter. He called the U.S. Secret Service Director, Kimberly Chase, to resign. The American people shouldn't feel comfortable with this, he said. This is a total failure on behalf of the Secret Service. We need a replacement at the top. And so they cut off the briefing. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican Tennessee, also took part in a briefing with the Secret Service and the FBI, said she was appalled to learn the Secret Service knew about a threat prior to the president walking on the stage. I mean, what the hell is going on here? I have no confidence in the leadership of Director Cheadle and believe it is in the best interest of our nation if she steps down from her position. I'm not opposed to that. Of course, fire her ass. She should step down. I mean, after all, she was a DEI Jill Biden appointee. Let's not cover anything up. Everything's on the table. But it's not just her. There was somebody in charge of protecting the President of the United States with the Secret Service at Butler, Pennsylvania. Butler Township, Pennsylvania. And as I said last night, the idea that a small police force in a town of 6,000 was told, you guys cover outside the perimeter, I just don't believe it. 1 lieutenant, 4 detectives, 12 or 14 patrol cars, 2 clerks. Are you kidding me? Nah, there's no way. And so now there's cover-up mode, and our buddy Dan Bongino will be on with me on Saturday's Life, Liberty, and Levin, former Secret Service, among other things. He's out there saying today that, well, it's even worse. Go to Right Scoop. You can see what he said. Lots to figure out here. Look, as soon as we know more, you're going to be the first to know. I am on top of all of this in the most minute detail. Nothing is passing my eyes without me taking a very close look at it and talking to people as well. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I've told you before, I read these books on totalitarianism, whether it's Marxism or the Third Reich or Soviet Union or fascism, whatever it is, by people who escaped or survived these regimes. Recently, we had one of these individuals as a guest on Life, Liberty, and Levin about North Korea. But there's always a common thread. You dehumanize your targets. We've talked about this at length. I've written about this at length. I've posted about this at length. You dehumanize your targets. Now, I want to play something for you, not to say, see, I told you so, but to say, see, I warned them to stop. I warned them to stop. Well, Mark, you can't make a connection between the two. Folks, listen to me. When you create a normal narrative that somebody is Hitler or somebody is a genocidal murderer or somebody's going to execute his political opponents, that affects the psyche of the nation and it affects the psyche of individuals. And so I have to discuss this with you. There were warnings put out about this by me. November 27, 2023. Right here on this program. Cut one, go. And this man is sick. Did he say what I thought he said here, Mr. Producer? This is Scarborough. Because he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. Has anyone informed Jake Tapper about this, Mr. Producer? Wolf Blitzer? The moron over at the White House press office? Has anybody even commented on this? No. One of the things I fear, America, is that Donald Trump is in grave danger because of comments like this. That he is personally and physically in grave danger because of comments like this. If you're told, and Scarborough has called him Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, I have it in my book, on Freedom of the Press. Now he says here, and there's no twisting of words like, they attempted on me. This is flat out. He says it repeatedly. He will imprison, he will execute. Whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. If you hear that from Scarborough and MSNBC, that if Donald Trump is elected, he will imprison and execute and drive from the country individuals, those are fighting words. And I cannot believe that Comcast, NBC, MSNBC allows this fool, this emotionally unstable, unhinged punk, to say the things that he says like this. And it doesn't come under any scrutiny. It's not condemned by any of his colleagues. It's not condemned by any of the other cable networks. It's not condemned at all. Again, I'm not tying this assassination attempt to him or to that. What I'm saying is you create an atmosphere, a culture, an environment where this becomes acceptable talk, acceptable language that can have an enormously devastating impact on a society. And that these people need to take responsibility for what's coming out of their mouths. And I've been calling it dehumanization because all these people who fled from these regimes or survived these regimes, that's what they said. The dehumanization of Jews. The dehumanization of people in the gulags. The dehumanization of the Uyghurs. And the dehumanization of Donald Trump. I even talked about it as recently as Monday, but here we have July 2nd, 2 days before Independence Day of this year. Of this year. How could you not? We did. How could you not see this if you're the executives at Comcast or Warner Brothers or the New York Times or the Washington Post? How can you not see this and hear this? Or the BBC? Cut 2, go. One British Broadcasting Corporation presenter, excuse me, COVID, seriously, took it to a whole new level, though openly encouraging Biden, ready for this, to assassinate his rival for the president. I've got to tell you something. I've told you this maybe twice before over the course of the years. I truly do fear for Donald Trump's safety. I truly do. When you step back, put the politics aside, and think about what he's been called, the lies about his threats to humanity, his threats to democracy, the comparisons to Hitler. When you think about, they say he's going to kill people, lock people up. I really am worried. My wife and I talk about this a lot, about the safety of Donald Trump. From the Democrat Party and the media, starting at the top with Mr. Nowitz. Nowitz, is that an ethnic name, Mr. Producer, Mr. Nowitz? No, Mr. Nowitz. David Aaronovitch, if that is his name, who presents BBC Radio 4's Briefing Room program, had apparently clamored for the 45th president's killing online, quote, on the basis that he is a threat to America's security. See what I mean? Posting on social media, he said, if I was Biden, I would hurry up and have Trump murdered on the basis that he is a threat to America's security, sparking instant outrage online. In response, some claim the presenter's post had amounted to an open call for violence, with others suggesting people have had police visit for a lot less. All right, that's enough. That's enough. And I go on, of course. It is horrendous. You can see these things coming. Not the details and the specifics. This dehumanization. This is what Joe Biden does to win elections or to win political arguments or to defeat nominees. He dehumanized Robert Bork. He dehumanizes, even to this day, Clarence Thomas and Supreme Court justices he disagrees with. He dehumanized Reagan. But he saved the worst of it for Trump. August 30, 2022. And I've talked about this dehumanization problem now probably for 2 decades, but it really has come to a pinnacle with Joe Biden. This is his creme de la creme. He's the expert at the Leninist, Alinsky dehumanization targeting of individuals, and that's what he does.